Hi, I'm Sarah, and it's time to talk about Survivor. We have a recap from last night's episode. But first, if you're new to this channel, please click subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. And also, I'm so excited. I mean, unfortunately, we don't have David today, but we are very, very excited to have a special guest host from last season. One of Tika 3, Carson.
Ah! Thank you so
Hello.
much for having me. I can't replace David, but I'm happy to just sit in as an alternate for today. So this is really fun. Thank you for inviting me.
Yay. I'm so happy that you're here. I mean, I have to ask you first off, how does it feel to be watching this next season right after yours?
You know what? I haven't been this excited and invested in a Survivor season in such a long time. I think maybe because like watching your own season back is a whole nother experience that for me, I don't prefer, to be honest. Like honestly, it wasn't necessarily for me. Some people love it, but like
Mhm.
the stress I was under for every episode, it was so like heavy on my shoulders. And so
Yeah.
now that I'm able to kind of be on the flip side of it and to enjoy watching other people without having my own feet in staked in, it's really
Yeah.
nice. So I also am really enjoying these 90 minutes. So I'm really excited and to be kind of a fan again because it's been about 2 years since I've been able
Mhm.
to like publicly be involved in the community because for seasons 41 through 44, I pretty much was like under you can't post much, you can't be
Mhm.
a fan. And so now I get to be a fan, which is what I kind of like most. And so yeah, it's been really fun. So I obviously I would like to have my main titles and I would have loved to have extra 30 minutes for every episode, but on the other hand, it's kind of like I get to be a fan again, and that's what I started doing and I loved, and so it's kind of nice to be back in there.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting that you had to like kind of cut back on, your fandom, like
Well,
leading up. Yeah.
yes. Well, and it'd be so every episode I got my grandparents been like hooked on the show because no
Mhm.
one in my family really watched a lot. So I got my grandparents hooked on it when I was started the casting process back at before even season 41 premiered.
Oh,
So
wow.
every night we would talk for no joke an hour to 2 hours about the episode and break it down, and
Uh-huh.
it was so much fun, and that was the way I got it out. But I couldn't do that
Mhm.
publicly because like I didn't
Right.
want to in any way potentially ruin my spot because I'm,
Mhm.
clearly a Survivor fan, and I didn't want them to like look at my social media and be like, "Oh, well, you're not supposed to be talking about Survivor while you're in the casting process." So, anyways, I can
Right.
do it now, I guess.
Yay. You're out finally.
I'm
A
out. I
season
can
with a little
it's so
less
fun.
stress for you.
Yeah. So
So, well,
it's been so fun.
I want to ask you, and we're going to talk about last night's episode, but I have to ask you about the quit. I mean, we don't see it very
Yeah.
often, but Hannah leaving in the first episode, what are your thoughts?
Obviously, I don't want to see anybody quit. But at the same time, I am a big believer, especially after having gone through it myself, of there's always a little bit more to the story than I think what we see. And so
Right.
I'm not saying that that for the reasons that she explained that I agreed with her decision.
Mhm.
But also it is her decision. And
Yeah.
um I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like there was a little bit more of some layers to it that we might have not been seen, but obviously I was a little disappointed. And
Mhm.
it's never as fun as a Survivor fan to watch an episode where somebody just quits, especially leading up to it, where it's like the vote is the most exciting part of the episode.
Yeah.
So when it just kind of is like like at the end when someone quits,
You're like,
I worry, I've been really worried because of Jeff's words in one of his interviews that he said, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see something or if someone else does this or something like that. And I was like, and if you ever, I don't know if you pay attention to Jeff's podcasts and stuff
yeah.
like that, he hints at stuff. I mean, I remember him doing that for our season, and
Mhm.
so I am seriously worried for what's upcoming that could happen. But also I've seen Jeff throw out things that never come to fruition. But I mean, one thing he also hinted at was the emergence of duos. His last podcast he did on Fire, and we saw that play out in this episode where we see Brando and Kelly come together, and then Katura and Kendra, and then Jake and Bruce. And so it's like Jeff kind of manifests stuff, sometimes. And so I worry that like there are things that could still happen that he's hinted that could be not fun to watch. So
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't happen again.
Right. Oh, yes. We don't need that.
And
I
maybe
hear
he
you.
could be talking about season 46, but I don't know.
Right.
I believe I like pay attention to what Jeff says when he hits stuff because I feel like it's usually a foreshadow.
Right. Oh my gosh. If we had 2 seasons back to back quits, or even like you said, 2 in one season.
I don't think it's possible for another one this season. Like I can't imagine anybody doing that. But I feel like it could be hinting at 46. But I don't know. We'll see.
Right. Well, diving into this episode, like you said, we have 90 minutes, which I am loving. It does not feel extra long. I think they're doing it very well, but it's going to give us some good amount of camp life here up at the top of this episode. So basically the storyline with Lululemon, Lulu Yellow, is sort of a revelation from Emily, right? Like she starts with a bit of an apology. Then she's surprised people are actually upset with her. But then it seems like she might have heard some of the criticism, and then we see her start to adjust. How are you feeling about this Lulu tribe here at the top of the episode?
I love Lulu, and I know that they're messy, and I know that they're on the verge of pandemonium every episode. But also I feel like it's a refreshing sort of chaos, I know Emily's kind of compared herself or been told that she is similar to Chaos Cass. And so I feel like Emily has brought in this element of complexity in the tribe that not only are they, a disaster at the challenges, but they're also a disaster in the internal dynamics that play out. And it's so much fun to watch. And so sometimes, even with like on our season, I feel like when I got to the Orange tribe, the tribe dynamics were just kind of mellow and like we're just go with the flow. But I love how Lulu is just throw it all out the window. Last episode we saw, episode 1, we saw Emily, really butting heads with Caleb and Sabaya. And then this episode, all of a sudden Emily and Caleb have built this bond. And so I love the dynamics between this tribe and that it's clear that there's no similarities between the episodes. It's like throw everything out the window that about this tribe because it's going to change. I love it.
Also up here in this early part of the episode, they're going to be looking for an idol, trying to do it in pairs, which kind of puts Brandon in the situation with Sabaya to find the Beware advantage. And he says, no, thank you. I'm not opening this.
Honestly, I don't know about you. I thought it was a brilliant move. It's but I guess you have to first decide, is that person that is with me trustworthy? But at the same time, it's like kind of whoever opens it has the disadvantage in the situation because the person who doesn't open it has the power of the information because the person who opens it definitely is not sharing it with anybody else unless they have a really close ally. But the person who doesn't open it, they don't have any, value or weight attached to it besides that relationship between the two of them. And if that relationship is not strong, then that person who opens it has an extreme disadvantage. So I love seeing Brandon step back and say, I don't want to open it. I don't want to lose my vote because there's a chance I won't be able to vote for an upcoming tribal council. And it happened with Sabaya. So I thought it was a really smart game move that I think we will see kind of play out as we, continue on in new seasons, because for so long we've been talking about, why would you open the Beware advantage? I always said if I found one that I would, and we didn't have any on our season, but that I would just hide it and then put a bunch of leaves over it, not touch it. That means I know it's not in my hands and it's not in anybody else's hands. I can keep checking it, but I also don't lose my vote. So I don't know. And then I could play it out if I needed to, but I thought it was a really smart move by Brandon. It was fun to see that moment as well with Svaya being like, well, I want to open it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was interesting. When you're kind of stuck finding something with somebody else, then I'm more open to this idea of sharing, and especially when it's, beware. So you're like,
Yeah.
you're going to probably at least lose your vote, if not worse, right? So might as well pass that off, but you still have the information of who has it. So I agree with you. I was not upset about that at all.
Right. It was fun to see Brandon like freak out and then be like, ugh, I don't now I can't open it. But yeah, I really enjoyed that play out. And I think that I do think we'll see it moving forward too, and how that kind of changes the game moving forward. So I'm looking forward to that.
So the storyline on Bellow Blue is Uncle Bruce, basically.
Yeah.
Apparently, everyone's loving it except for maybe Katura's the only one not into it.
I think that it's kind of like, sometimes you walk into your room and you immediately are like, I just don't like that person for some reason. I kind of feel like that's the case with Couture and Bruce, or maybe it's a bit of a Bruce is coming in as a return, even though he barely played for a
Yeah.
day, like a returning player. And so he does name drop Kane. And I think Couture wrote on Twitter some other like Wendell and some other people. So I could see how that can rub someone the wrong way. But
Sure.
it is, I mean, I have missed, that like the inner tribe hatred of, between people. And it really seems like Katora despises Bruce, and then Bruce is over there kind of Michael Scott like, dancing around. He's entertaining the group. I mean, and I as I'm watching it, not only am I like amazed by all of Bruce's facial reactions to things, but also I'm like, how did they put Tika together with Jam Jam, Carolyn, and Bruce? Like I'm almost, I feel like we were robbed a little bit of
Oh
what could
man.
have been even crazier Tika tribe. So if Bruce had been able to stay, so
You're right. I didn't even think about that. Oh my gosh. Wow. That would have been wild. I mean, it's so fun to see Bruce trying so hard to be silly and work on his social game and
yes,
have fun. But then it's hilarious to see Katora, because it's not like anything serious, right? It's all light.
no,
She's just
it's
like, eye
fun.
roll city. I can't with this person.
Would
That's
that be you out there, Sarah? Would that rub you the wrong way? I mean, I could definitely see how like internally it would rub, some people the wrong way. But like also I feel like Couture is more open about it, which makes it a little
yeah.
bit more fun.
Yeah, I wonder if there are other people in her tribe who feel the same way and who are just not as open. Because I don't think I'd sit in confessionals and like talk about my annoyance about my tribe mates unless it got really, really
Yeah.
bad. I'd have to just eye roll and be like, okay, that's
I
him.
wonder if there was like a moment between them that we didn't see that like really
Uh-huh.
started it all. Like I look forward to after the season, when if they get to talk about it, that'd be fun to hear.
Yeah. But I'd probably be cracking jokes with him. I mean, if someone will dance with me, I
Yeah.
will.
Well, I feel like Bruce honestly is
Down.
even though I think he's gotten a lot of people saying like, oh, uncle's the same thing as dad, which arguably, yeah, kind of is.
Kind of.
Um, but I do feel like I feel like his energy and his optimism is kind of something that radiates, and
Yeah.
um, I don't feel like Bruce is aware that Katora really doesn't like him, which makes it even a little bit more funny.
Absolutely. Okay, so Red, however, Reba is just loving life. They're doing great. Austin's got clues he's working on, trying to get to this idol. It's going to be a process. Um, Otherwise, we see like Mama J, Julie, we see Drew, we just see
Mhm.
connections over there.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting to kind of watch that tribe's dynamics, because they're the most like for me, I have the most question marks about that tribe. Like we started the episode kind of seeing Dee with her real big toe, which was hilarious, by the way. I mean, looking at the watching it, I was like, wow, that is a really protruding
Right.
toe. I mean,
It's huge.
but I love how Austin is like in the background, like, like those are the footprints on the beach. Like, it made me laugh. But yeah, no, I don't feel like I know a lot about Julie, which besides like that she's gotten along, a lot with Drew.
Mhm.
So it's been I do kind of see the similarities between like Drew and me, and then Carolyn and yeah, and her, and it's like, but
Mhm.
in more of the relationship where it's like,
Mhm.
Carolyn kind of saw me as the son, and I feel like
Yeah.
Drew's really playing into that, which is interesting. And I don't remember when season 45 left, like, or what they had seen of our season, if this was something that like they had watched and been like, oh, that's cute, whatever, and
Right.
like it kind of influenced that. I don't know, but it was
Mhm.
kind of fun to see them bond in that way, because for me at least, you don't expect those things a lot of times. Like, you expect Drew to get along with more of like Austin, which he does get along with him clearly, but to see him bond with her, it was pretty fun. And I honestly have been really impressed by Drew. I think
Mhm.
he's really playing into just that loyal, friendly guy. I do want to hear your thoughts on like the getting back from the journey and how he
Yeah.
integrated himself back into the tribe. But yeah, it's been interesting to see them so far, and the idol, of course, has been an interesting facet of it as well.
It's always interesting when you have a tribe that just does well. They don't have to go to tribal, and they have this
Hmm.
feeling that everything's just smooth and great, but they're not actually learning to play the game yet, right? And we
Yeah,
sometimes see them stumble at merge or just a further down the road. So I feel like
totally.
that's what we're being set up here with at this point.
Mm,
But yeah, you brought it
I
up. Let's
think,
move to this journey
yeah.
because this is interesting. We've got Brandon, Bruce, and Drew who are going to go on this journey. And so they try to do a little connecting at first. And we see Bruce just being kind of vague. We see Brandon just reveal everything. We don't actually see what Drew does. We hear his comments about it, but we don't see how
Mm.
much he reveals.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting watching them make those decisions. I'm proud of Bruce for not risking his vote, because I thought that was a pretty safe move for him. It's so funny because Bruce called me, I think after episode 4 of our season, which I think was like about before that he was about to leave, and
Hmm.
that was after Jeff had put on out there that he wanted Bruce back at some point. But in my
Yeah.
head, and and everyone else's, that meant in 2024. Like he said he didn't have a spot for him this season. So I did not expect Bruce to be going out there for 45 or 46. I should have seen through that. I mean, of course
Mhm.
they can't say that he's going to go on there publicly.
Yeah.
But he called me, and I was with Carolyn on vacation. I was crashing her vacation, and Bruce called me, and I'm like, Carolyn, I have to go. She's like, ugh, and I'm like, I have to. It's Bruce. He just got called. He just got told by Jeff Probst that he's going to go back at some point. And Bruce was like, hey, I want to get some 3D printed puzzles. Like, what should I do? And I was like, okay, Bruce, here's the options, because you have time. In my head, he had time. I was being silly. He didn't have time. He didn't have time to go. And I was like, you can go to the local library. I'll send you the files that I used, and and all that. And I'll even send you my own. But I can't get them to you too soon. But he was telling me he struggled with them. So then all of a sudden he wasn't answering his phone calls, and it hit us. And it was like, okay, Bruce is
Uh-huh.
on the season. Um, so, but
It was like,
so
Carson,
I
I
know
don't have
Bruce.
time. I have to go.
I know, it's like he was hinting at it without hinting at it. So,
Yeah.
and he knew, but he knew that puzzles weren't his thing. So definitely think that
Yeah.
that was the right decision for him. And honestly, I feel like something that I would say Bruce is more of if just knowing him, I feel like he's more impulsive, but that was
Mhm.
really well thought out. I was proud
Mhm.
of him in that moment.
Yeah, I didn't really feel like he needed to risk it, really. I mean, he sure could have
Yeah,
if he really wanted to, but like he didn't need to. He's not in a really bad spot. His whole
yeah,
tribe is doing just fine. Uh, so poor Brandon is
I
over the
know.
moon. Puzzles are his thing. He's so excited. This he can do. And then he messes it up.
I know. I literally, because okay, so I watched it, and I was like, and he said, he was like, there's no way that, like, if I can't do this, send me back to New Jersey. And they included that in the episode, and I was like, okay, there's no way that he doesn't, like, there's no way he can't anymore, because he has had such a, like, he has had the, like, the humble beginnings journey of
Right.
of his cast. And I was like, they can't do him like this. He's
Right.
going to do it.
Yeah.
And then and I'm like, the sand's going down. It's like the last thing, and I'm like, no. So I really empathize with him. I mean, he has had such a like troublesome, beginning. And so and he's such a big character. I could not even imagine him not going far. So like in my head, he was there till late in the game. I did a draft with some people. He was like my number one pick.
Oh,
And I mean, like, I was just feeling for him. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine that, like, that weight on your shoulders where it's like,
yeah.
I should do this. And then, yeah. So, man, I really feel bad for him, but
I know.
he did his best, and that's all that
Yeah.
matters.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, it's just so fun to watch a super fan play.
Yeah.
And when he said, "Man, this is embarrassing," I was like, "It is! Oh my gosh!" Like
Yeah.
everything he does is just not working out for him on this game, and it's
I
so
know.
hard to watch. I mean, but entertaining, but hard to
Yes.
watch.
Oh, no, it's been very entertaining. For sure. And a lot of people, I think, try to compare me to him and be like, well, Carson, like, was good at puzzles. And I want to correct people. I don't know if I'm good at puzzles. I'm very good at memorizing, though. So there's a difference. There really is. Like, I'm really interested. I would love to, like, have to be put on the spot and see if I could do it without knowing them prior
Right.
to, because I feel like it'd be a whole different experience. I don't know. I don't think I'm like that good. I just think I'm great at memorizing.
Right. Oh, well, that makes me want to ask you about the first episode, the Sweat and Savvy, that
Mhm.
new puzzle with like a rope over bars. Like, what was that? And
Yep.
could you figure it out?
I got it. So I tried this for the first time. It is genuinely one of the most difficult puzzles I've ever done.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it's like all about putting it like, oh, I'm not gonna try to do it because it takes me like
Sure.
5 minutes each time.
Yeah.
It is one of the most confusing puzzles and savvy challenges they've definitely ever put out. I mean, Helen and mine were just counting the number of rings, and I mean,
Yeah.
it was easy. It really was. We both finished it within a minute and a half, and we're looking at each other like it's too easy. But yeah, no, it's really complicated. It's like if you want to try to find it, they sell them on Amazon. I'm going to make a 3D print of them because it's not
Sure.
that difficult to do.
Of course.
But yeah, it's been fun to try. But I
All
think
right.
it's
So
genuinely one of the hardest. I don't know if I would have
had
done
you
it.
been okay, that's my question. So had you been there, you would have definitely it would taken you a while.
A good
Not
bit.
shorter.
At least 30 minutes, I think,
Oh
to
wow.
figure it
Yeah.
out. Yeah, it was certainly difficult. They test these puzzles with people that are just that called the dream team. So I wonder if like the dream teamers finished, because
Yeah.
honestly, I don't know how someone would, unless they had these really strong people who just busted through the first part and then were able to, have a lot
Right.
of time at the end. But I don't know. And so, fun fact about our season with our Sweat and Savvy, the sweat portion of the challenge was meant to be impossible, is what I've heard. Where people who tested it didn't finish. So Brandon and Matthew were not intended to finish, and so I think at this point producers were like, okay, we have to just make sure that somebody loses, so we're going to put them
Yeah.
against each other and only one can win, and then both of them lost. But I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe they have a lot of faith in the contestants.
I kind of wanted one of the
I
tribes to
know.
get it.
Well, and maybe I'm glad they didn't, because I loved seeing Sabaya pull out that idol and with the wax around it and be like, "We don't have a flint. We can't even burn it." Yeah.
I would love it. Okay, so back at this journey, Drew is going to do the puzzle. He is going to succeed. All is working out for Drew, apparently. And then we get him back at camp, and he's just like an open book. He's like, look, guys, this is what I did. And now we have this advantage as a group.
I was at first, I was really impressed with the way he pulled that off. And I do think, I think nowadays a lot of people try to put that sort of decision in a category of a yes or no. You should do this or you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it really depends on who you are. Because Drew, I think, recognized that people just saw him as this younger brother, I don't know, just this son even for Julie. And so him knowing that, it was like, people expect me to be the person who is loyal, that younger brother. That's how they see me. And I need to play into that. And I don't think that sharing that information did him any harm. I feel like, in fact, it only solidified the trust between the people that he had already built bonds with. So I feel like now Austin's looking at him. He shares that he has found an idol clue or whatever advantage it is. And then Julie is like, I'm sure thinking like, okay, he can be trusted. He's very honest. And honestly, if you go on the first journey too, chances are you better, in my opinion, tell the truth, because especially with like seasons 41 and 42, that it was like the same thing every time. And so if you lie about it, it gets a lot more difficult to cover up those tracks when someone else comes back. And so I feel like Drew really secured himself well. And especially, this was a small detail, but the way he hinted at, we could use this as a tribe when we get to the merge sort of deal. Yeah. I feel like that was just really smart. But I feel like you could do it the other way and be a different sort of character, or be presented in a different way and also pull it off. So if anything, I think it speaks to more of the way he was able to, use that to his advantage and gain more trust with his tribe. And I really do feel like with a journey in that situation with an advantage, that should be your goal. I know for me, that's what I did. I didn't tell the full truth, but I told half truth that ended up giving me more social, positioning within the Orange Ratu tribe on my season, where everybody going to the merge trusted me because I had shared it in pieces with them. And so in a similar light, I think Drew did a really impressive job. And I think a lot of people online are like, everyone shares too much. And, that might just be a trend of the new era with the way the Beware advantages work nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, I don't love just like, if you find an idol and you share it, I'm going to be like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Yeah.
These extra advantages, there's more bargaining power to them. And using them as part of your social game of being like, I am honest with you guys. I totally appreciated Drew doing this. He not only was like looking like a loyal, honest, teammate, but, it's kind of also like, I do have this, and you got to think twice about trying to get me out, right? Someone has to really work at blindsiding him because they know he has this. So I think it's helpful in multiple ways.
Yeah, I like that. And I completely agree. It's way more fun to be for it to be like a big blind side where someone plays it, nobody knows sort of deal.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think telling one person can get you in more trouble than telling the whole group, because one person, they hold all of that power. And if somebody else finds out that they know something about you that you didn't tell them, it blows up your game. That social connection's ruined. And so it's almost like you either tell nobody or you tell everybody. There's special situations where like Carolyn told me about her idol, but she didn't tell me until 10 minutes for tribal,
right.
that was fun to watch. So I definitely think there's there's layers to it, and there's no right wrong. But I agree. I do prefer to watch somebody keep it in their pocket and not tell anybody, because we want a Wentworth season. Everyone wants to see Wentworth, call out. I don't know. And the elimination exit is what it's called in Roblox Survivor. I mean, they've done this before in Survivor, of course, but I call it the elimination exit because I've played so many on Roblox. They have this game that simulates Survivor, and it's called an elimination exit. It is a fun advantage. Like, he just gets a lead tribal. If he ever even gets an inkling of feeling like that something could go wrong, he can leave. And I'm excited. It seems like it's going to be a fun thing to look for going forward, I think.
Well, unfortunately, Brandon did not get that, because that would have been useful for him. So let's move into our immunity challenge. This is also for reward. They get some fishing gear. Jeff is going to say, first look, Hannah voted out.
Right. I caught that too. And I was like,
misinformation?
Question mark? Yeah. And I know Jeff is like, is someone who doesn't want to reveal anything or, say something that the tribes could reveal to each other. But at the same time, like, I just thought, like, I was surprised, if anything, because Jeff is usually very much so on the lines of, I am upset about quitters. I mean, he talked about it in his podcast. It was very disappointing to him in his own words. And so, what did you think about that? Should he have said that she just straight up quit, or was he right in trying to kind of keep it vague?
I think he should have been more vague, because I agree to the whole, like, he doesn't reveal information, but lying felt weird because it's going to come out. Like, there are people on the tribe who know what happened. It's eventually going to spill out. So I just thought he would say something more like, first look, Hannah gone, Hannah not here, whatever, missing Hannah. Just saying voted out, I was just like, wait, what, sir?
Yeah.
Like, that's wrong.
Well, and so at the same time, it could have genuinely just been a mistake on his part. You know what I mean? Like, it was super interesting for me because, in my head, it is a production, and I knew that going into it. But one of the things I wanted to find out for myself the most was how much of this is real. Like, how much did they stop and say, cut, we're going to redo that, sort of deal. Jeff is it's crazy because he truly is a one take wonder. He does not say it again. If he does, if he says something that he wants to repeat, he'll be like mid-sentence. It will be like, well, we went to, like, sort of deal. So he knows how, like, the editing works, and they can just cut it out, sort of deal.
Yeah.
But I feel like it could have just been like, it just went across his mind. But if it was intentional, I definitely agree. I think he should have said something along the lines of, if he wants to be vague, Hannah was eliminated, Hannah has left the game, sort of deal, without saying, if he doesn't want to say that she quit, then don't, there's other ways of saying it without saying she was voted out, which
right. It might have just been like, I'm so used to saying that. But I did think it was odd. Okay, couple new things. This is a new puzzle. Question mark?
Yes, this is I mean, if you count the like loop thing puzzle from the Savvy. I mean, I guess it's a puzzle. Yeah. So this is the third new puzzle that we've had in the season. I love it. And I know, like, everyone's like, oh, but we've seen, like, the tribe or the season logo be solved before, which I have back there, by the way. Or we've seen it solved before, but, like, at the same time, I mean, it's a different configuration with the different jigsaw, configuration. Like, for about 10 different variations, we saw the same single standing circle that was on Winners at War, my season 42. The list goes on, and it was the same stuff, just with a different, pattern on it, which I just memorized the pattern, and of course I saw it and then did it. But so it's been really fun, and it's keeping me on my toes. I wish I usually can 3D print when I'm at my parents' house, but I don't have one in my room because they're very big and very loud, and I prefer getting some sleep. So but
you haven't 3D printed these yet?
Haven't, but I've started kind of playing with them on my computer. It's very fun. Someone just commented the Carson effect. I've really enjoyed when people say stuff along. I love when my name becomes a verb with this stuff, and they're like, Jeff or someone Carsoned it like as a 3D printing thing. It's so funny. And honestly, it's like an honor. Like my name is like a verb for the like 3D printing.
I mean, I'm so happy to see it because I mean, honestly, you just like stepped up to every puzzle and you're like, done it, got it, I know it. And I was like, production, take a hint, like switch it up a little bit. So the fact that they caught on to your vibe and switching things up, I do like to see. And then another person leaving their effect is Claire, because now we have a sit out role.
Right.
Love it. I mean,
it was so, I mean, I didn't, it was so funny because we were texting each other the memes back and forth. Like, like it was so funny. I mean, I loved his little, like, what did he say with the sit out? Like, you have, I mean, obviously, I love Claire's tweet where she's like, it's taken Jeff 44 seasons, and finally I came in and he's decided, okay, we've got to do that. We've got to redo this. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of fun. Like, you know, season 44 kind of changed the game. That was what Nat Van Wagenen told me when I left, when I got eliminated, because I didn't get voted out. I have to remind myself that. But he told me, he was like, it wasn't like you did good or like we liked you. It was, well, Carson, you changed the game. That's what he told me. And so it's kind of fun to see that kind of play out a little bit. And
that's so impressive.
I guess I don't know. It was, I had a really fun time kind of seeing them kind of, I remember one of the producers who does interviews with you was walking me back to one of the spots. And they just pulled me aside and they were like, so did you know that puzzle? And I'm like, yeah. I didn't know the right answer. I'm like, yeah. I mean, like, I don't know.
Like, yeah.
Right.
You guys do the same puzzles. Yeah, I do. I know it.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing was that I didn't really talk about that in my casting thing because it was just kind of like, I took a 3D printing course as I was applying. And so that's when it all started and that fandom kind of, you know, multiplied. And so I've had about 4 or 5 months where it was just like nonstop having, you know, go back, watch an old season, stop on the puzzle, take a picture, draw it out, then, you know, do all that stuff. So
wow. My local library has a 3D printer that I can go and use at any time. So I got to get better at the
Okay,
games.
Send me your email after this. I'll send you some of the puzzles. It's very fun.
Oh, you guys, I'm gonna have puzzles. Okay. All right. So we can no longer sit out in back-to-back challenges no matter what. There's no clearing from a tribal. We get that. Okay. This is a pretty wild challenge, but they all are these days. Kendra falls on that beam and I physically felt it. Wow.
Right.
And
oh my gosh.
Right.
Okay. I literally was like, like, I thought she was going to be medevac. I mean, maybe they put some like sounds on it where it sounded more dramatic. It looked horrible.
No. Yeah.
I mean, I was hurting. And like, gosh, that was horrible.
I was like, I don't know how she like ever walked again. Like that was such a hard fall. But we're going to have a pretty close end here. We are going to get close at the puzzle. But well, I'll say 2 of the tribes were really close. And then one of them is just falling apart and struggling. And like, it is entertaining, but it's also so heartbreaking to watch people just not be able to get something.
Yeah. Especially when it's been the case the whole time. You know what I mean? Like every once in a while you need a break. And so to feel just defeated and defeated and defeated. Oh my gosh. It's so sad. I also do think, though, the advantage of being defeated and defeated and defeated is that I think you do build a bond with those people that's a lot more different than the people that have been sticking together the whole time, have been to tribal sort of deal. So we'll see it play out. But given the current trajectory, I give the mission succeeding percentage at like, not high, right?
Not high.
Below average for this Lulu yellow tribe. And so, but at the same time, I do feel like whoever survives that tribe, whether it's going to be one person,
Yeah.
two people, I do feel like they're going to have such a strong bond, and that it will, I think back to season 41 where we saw Shan and Ricard being the sole surviving members
Yeah.
of the Uod tribe. And what do they do going, into the merge? They run that merge group. I mean,
Yeah.
they didn't win, but Ricard and Sham were a force to be reckoned with, and there were only two of them, and there were so many, and there were 10 other people. And so, I mean, if I had to predict, I mean, I feel like Caleb he has to get there. He is so like in tune and thoughtful and considerate, but also has that like Machiavellian, like I do like villains sort of deal. That I mean, he just is a standout for me, in that I could see him do really good moving forward. But I hope that's not the case for them. I love that tribe is fun. I want to see them as far as I can.
Agreed. I don't want them all like just dwindling.
Yeah.
So Reba Red is going to take the win here. Bellow Blue is going to get the second fishing gear, and obviously immune. Sending Lulu back to tribal. All right. So our poor little struggling Lulus. We know Brandon and Emily have had the toughest time, and here again, Brandon is showing us that he's just not helpful in challenges. And it seems like Emily is making a little bit of a comeback, she was never there to begin with. But she's making roads with people.
Yeah. I was really impressed by Emily, and it was almost like, to me, it was like at the beginning, in the first episode especially, it was so interesting to see her just kind of be so outspoken and say what she thinks, and not be held back whatsoever. And then and it's almost like she came out guns a-blazing. Like, it's kind of like, it is interesting because you sit at, before the game starts, you sit at a resort for 5 days straight, not talking to anybody. And I do feel like there's some sort of pent up energy that all of a sudden it just explodes out. And I feel like Emily is just kind of like catching up with, like, what did I just do? What did I put myself in? And even though she's a self-described like neurotic person, I feel like she is kind of having that self-awareness, like, whoa, I've got to, make a switch. I've got to restructure how I've started this game. And to even see like little comments, like this one really stood out to me because it was so genuine and sweet. But she says to Brandon, she's like, I feel like we're the same person. We have like the same hair, but yours is like so gorgeous and like flowing, And that was genuinely like such a nice thing for her to say. What, like, such a kind compliment. And I really I love that of her. And then to see her be so emotional in her confessional, like, she really like touched my heart a little bit. Like, I really have, not only have I really enjoyed her from brings a little bit of element of chaos to the tribe aspect, but I feel like also she does have that almost dual personality where she is self-reflecting at the same time and saying like, okay, I've got to make a switch. And then, and to see Caleb even say like, okay, I know, Emily and I didn't get along that first episode, and clearly we were fighting, and then make that switch and be like, but we can still work together. No one likes her at the moment, but this is a great opportunity, because we've seen a lot of people who are maybe not liked as much on tribes go to the end and then not win. And I'm not saying that will be the case for Emily, but just looking at it from a perspective of Caleb, Emily's just a free number right now. And so for him to kind of take her under his wing and then, nurse her back to health, it was really, it was fun. And I'm rooting for them too. I love them. I want them to do really well. Both of them such an interesting group, like, and so I think we're really starting to see what Jeff, kind of hinted at, is that emergence of duos, and like some people are involved in multiple duos, but I feel like this is where we kind of begin to see that, begin.
Yeah, I mean, so to Caleb's point, like, what a great person to just not cut someone off, right? Like she
Yeah.
caused problems those first couple days, but he was
Right.
willing to see past it. He could add like, what do I need for game and what do I need for humanity, right? Like I'm going to talk to her
Yeah.
like a human, but also I can use her in the game. That's really lovely to see. But I mean, self-awareness is so important and it's pretty difficult for a lot of people. So the fact that
Mm.
Emily could course correct so quickly and realize that she had just, the anxiety of starting the game, we see it manifest in different ways for different players. But for her, she like flipped into work mode and all of a sudden she had to realize people aren't stocks, which we think is
Yeah.
hilarious because like obviously, but she was dealing with the game like
Right.
work and taking the personal element out of it. But to be able to readjust so quickly is really lovely to see and exciting to see what she can do with it.
Yes, it kind of reminded me a little bit of how Carolyn, entered the season, where she was seen as just this, crazy, if you describe her as that, or like
Yeah.
loud and just like would scream. And you just kind of were like, whoa, she's a lot. But then the second episode comes by, she finds the idol, and you realize, no, she's very self aware. She's very in tune with her emotions. There's more to the story than your initial impression of her. And I feel like I sense that with Emily too. And I feel like the narrative is hinting at that as well. And so my prediction is I see Emily going very far, and I see her. I'm really excited to see her transformation as it continues. And who knows? I mean, there's a lot. I feel like she has one of those paths that's not clear cut that will make some great moments, and I'm very excited about it. Watching that play out.
Yeah. The first episode, I brought up the parallels between her and Carolyn, and I just thought that they found a Carolyn that was like negative, like who couldn't.
Yeah,
I was
right.
like, wait, they went the other way with it. But maybe she has the ability to sort of come back and be a more likable character. She's just
Yeah.
different.
And I totally think she's going to be polarizing. I mean, we've clearly seen that where some people like really like her and some people don't. And it's
Yeah.
almost like I mean, you can't satisfy everybody, but I do feel like she is going to be that character that you talk about for years to come, like as someone who kind of set their own path. There has never been an Emily before. We can compare her to Chaos Cast all the time, but they're very different,
Yeah.
So I'm really, for me, she is someone that I've really enjoyed watching out there so far, and has brought in an added layer of complexity to an already complex game. So it's been great.
And we both were also enjoying Brandon, and he mentions
Yeah.
his social game here as like trying pre-tribal. This is, I'm going to use my social game. And I definitely saw it when I spoke to him today in his exit interview. He is so charming and lovely. I
Mm.
get it. I get why he was cast. I get why people like him. But it was hard to see in the episode because people were just like, oh my gosh, like what's he doing
Yeah.
for us?
Right. And he is so, I mean, he's such a good confessionalist. Like, had he
Mhm.
been able, if he had he lasted longer, I feel like he would easily be like the confessionalist of the season. To me, he reminds me a lot of like the astuteness of like someone like Owen Knight, who is able to come
Mhm.
up with these really complex analogies and explain it so eloquently. He's really in tune with that. And it's unfortunate that he kind of got on the worst tribe he could be on, and
Yeah.
hasn't done as well as he has hoped. But yeah, it's been. I mean, he kind of was in a really. I feel like he was in a trap. The only way he could have saved himself, really, in my opinion, was winning that journey reward or
Oh yeah.
advantage, which would have been interesting. And so it's almost the whole time I was like, it can't be Emily or Brandon. It can't be. They're too good. They have to go further. And then all of a sudden, just reading the votes, and I'm like, no. Like
Yeah.
I it's almost crazy. I wanted someone to stand up and be like, I'm quitting. So neither of them like had
Another
to go.
quit. No. Well, what
Right.
would you
Like,
have done if you were on Lulu? Would you have taken out Brandon or Emily?
who I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it depends on who I get. I mean, I do feel like I think I would have gone along with Emily. I mean, I say that. I mean, she does. she is someone that like I feel like I would have gravitated towards. I don't know, but like unless
Yeah.
I don't know. I really it's hard to say. But I have always been someone to really appreciate people who are a little quirky like
Yeah.
myself. So
Mhm.
I think I mean, and Brandon is too. So I don't know. I genuinely
Yeah.
like if you put the two in front of me and said you have to choose one, um, oh my gosh, I have zero idea because there's two sides of it where Emily
Right.
is kind of like a loose cannon in a sense, and we haven't seen her, seen how she plays out. I mean, she started the game, almost fighting with Bruce before the show started. How will that
Yeah.
affect the post merge dynamics with Bruce and her, and maybe potentially the whole Blue Tribe already having a discourse between them? But then
Right.
Brandon, it's like, is he a liability? What is he going to be able to pull through on these challenges? Because we don't want to keep going to tribal, and as much as tribe strength is something that people talk about.
Yeah. I mean, watching this tribal, I was feeling like, I guess it's Brandon's time, as a
Mm-hmm.
bummer as it is. I get letting him go at this point. And then Emily starts talking about like her journey, and we get the tinkly music. And that's usually my clue that
Mm.
this person is going. And so I was
Yeah.
like, oh, wait a minute. Emily's gonna go, but then Brandon started talking, and the music got slower,
Slower.
tinkly.
I love that.
I was like, oh, okay, they got me. They both get their moment, but Brandon's was like much more of an emotional journey. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is his time to go. But he said some beautiful stuff. And then when he got his torch snuffed, like it felt like he was like right there. He's like, Jeff, this is so cool. To the point that Jeff
Yeah.
was like, get out of here.
Right. I mean, and I feel like he genuinely meant that how much he loved it. I mean, I,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so glad that he got the opportunity. But and then putting it into perspective, like I don't know if you got to read that article about the casting, stories for like 5 of the players. He
Yeah.
was
Hmm.
included.
Hmm.
But he had been in like the finals for Big Brother, then
Yeah.
the finals of Survivor 44, and
Mhm.
both times had made it through everything, gets the last and final stage, and then gets the call that he's cut. And I personally have been through the casting process, and I'm fortunate that I only had to do it once. I genuinely cannot imagine doing that over the span of years and having to do it 3
Yeah.
different times. The amount of energy it took out of me, and time, I just truly, I mean, having like it was very emotional for me to watch because it was like the end of such a long journey for him, and seeing that. And so I'm really proud of him for getting through it and leading with such a big smile on his face. I mean,
Yeah.
what a inspiring person that, and like motto he kind of upheld. It was really cool.
Yes, you're right. The casting process is so wild and
Yeah.
so it's draining. It's a lot. And you go back and you go back and you talk more and you send in more stuff. And the people who almost are on a season and they almost are on the neck, like it is
Mm,
really draining.
yeah.
So yeah, poor Brandon. But what an interesting season this is already starting
Yes.
out to be. We talked a lot, but is there anything
Yeah.
else that you wanted to mention that we missed?
Um,
Is there
no,
someone
I
else
mean,
you're loving?
I mean, I loved, I don't think we got to talk about Brando's moment with, when he was putting on the
Oh,
buff
the
on his
two
shirt
pop
to
buff?
bond with, yeah, with to bond with Katura, Kelly, and Kendra. I thought that
Yeah.
was like really, I thought it was like such a fun little moment. And I've been really excited because I do feel like, I mean, 41, for example, was a really good example of a guinea pig season of this like new era that Jeff is trying to kind of put out there, and begin. And so even with through 44, I do feel like we've kind of been testing guinea pigs, and it's gotten a little, the medicine has gotten a little bit more refined, but I really feel like this is like the good medicine that we've gotten so far, and not only are these 90 minutes really creating a smooth storytelling experience where I feel like we really understand what's going to happen, but also just the intro titles, being such a fun,
Yes.
like throwback. Did you like pay attention? Because I remember Jeff said in the first podcast that that there was going to be a Easter egg hidden in the intro titles.
Oh, right.
Did you pick up on? I mean, I thought it was there at the very end. There was like a beware advantage, like flash.
Yes.
And we did see a beware advantage be found in this episode.
Yeah.
But did it have an effect on the end? So and then I was like, well, was it different? I don't know.
Well, he said it was the beware advantage was in this episode because it was going to be a part of the episode.
Okay.
But he said it's always going to be in that spot, which was nice of him to give. I was like, great. So I'll just make sure I always look at that spot. But he then was like, it's not going to always be that big of a reveal. So,
yeah.
All right.
Well, okay. So I'm looking. Well, it'll be fun now. Like, I guess if we know that placeholder to before the episode, be like, okay, this is the hint of what's going to come. So I'm looking forward to it now. But I remember at first I was watching it because they posted it before the episode. I was counting the amount of pelicans in the shots. I was like literally at one point I was like, should I count how many teeth this guy has? Like is showing. Like, is there like a number? I was way overcomplicating it. It was just a flash of the beware advantage.
You're like, I'm going to be tested on this. Will I get an idol? Oh my gosh. Am I going to lose my vote if I don't have it?
I love Easter egg stuff. Like I was thinking like maybe they're going to spell something out like with numbers or something, you know, and then if you put it all together throughout the season, it spells this word, which reveals the winner, you know, I don't know. I was way overcomplicating it. That's like my dream of what they do.
I was like, all right, Easter eggs, like you're going to lead up, like we're going to get hints of like who's going to win the season. But then of course, no, he's like, no, we're going to have a beware advantage. And then, you know,
it didn't really affect the episode. I mean, yeah, it was fun. It's still fun to watch. But I will be thinking about Kendra and hoping that she's okay after that fall.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Scarring for sure to watch. Oh. I can't imagine to be in her position.
No. Well, Seth, thank you for the super chat. So he's got a question for you, Carson. What's your favorite space related news these days? Oh boy.
You know, the space community has been very active recently. So I've been really excited to kind of keep up with the Chapia. So I'll explain what it is. The Chapia like testing right now. So this was at Johnson Space Center in Houston. They have so back in 2022. I got an email and it was like, hey, do you want to go do some testing and be like someone who tests out procedures that potentially people on Mars would test out? And I was like, absolutely, that sounds fun. So I get there. I didn't really know what all it was, but it was a 3D printed Martian home that they had printed that would simulate what it would be like for them to 3D print houses and like bases on Mars. So like, you know, that spoke to me, of course, like 3D printed Martian habitat. So I got to go inside and they had like rooms. And so what they did was they locked 4 different candidates that they had selected. They've locked them in there for what's going to be like 12 months. And they're doing this to test the like emotional trauma, how it affects your mental state on these people so that they can have a better understanding of what isolation is like if you're living on Mars. And so not only was I got to be a part of this, I got pictures of it, but I got to test out some of the procedures that they're using right now. So I'm really enjoying keeping up with them and seeing what's going on in there, seeing like pictures and stuff of what's going on, but it's quite fascinating. So if you want to check it out, it's called Chapea, Chapea. So very fun to keep up with.
Playing Big Brother, but with their real lives and just
with their real lives
hidden away.
If I was in the age requirements, I would have totally applied and tried to do it. So at one point, I had some friends that worked there. And they were emailing us saying, hey, we're buying them video games to play. And so I went out of my way to Walmart to buy them a video game and say, like, these people are playing a video game I bought for them. Yeah, it's not as bad as it sounds. Like, it's actually, if you look at pictures, it's actually a really cool, like, place. I mean, first of all, it's a 3D printed house, basically. but yeah, no, it's fascinating. I mean, it's something I didn't even know was a thing, but yeah. So
No.
if you, I think they're going to do some more. So if you're interested, apply. I wish I could have.
No, we can't lose you for like a year, Carson. You got to stay in the public. Or how Robin would like to know if you're still close friends with your season. I mean, I've seen you traveling with them.
I am. So I talk to Carolyn within every 2 hours. We still, and I do think like me and Carolyn are good examples of people that will be lifelong friends from it in a fun way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jam's really busy, so I don't get to keep up with him as much as I would hope. But
Mhm.
I mean, just in general, there's every single person on our season. We still are involved in our group chat. We still, keep up with each other. And it's been really, really fun. I mean, I get the luxury of being close to Josh when I'm in Atlanta, and then Lauren
Mhm.
when I'm in Houston. So it's almost like I have a family everywhere I go. And so
Yeah.
I've almost become like Lauren's babysitter when she can't watch her kids. And so and it's been for me one of my favorite parts post season is just having these really or these lifelong friends that have gone through this experience with you, that you're
Yeah.
bonded like a family. And it's
Mhm.
been very fun. And I hope we get to do a reunion sometime soon.
Mhm.
But it's been
Yeah.
I've been really fortunate to have a good season in that way.
Yes, and you had fun, exciting things like hanging out with Sia. I could not believe you guys were at her house.
Oh, me neither.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I've never, so that was that, I mean, getting there was crazy because we I arrived in Los Angeles with my family, and we were in a car driving there. And someone was like, "Hey, do you want me to take you by the Hollywood sign?" And I'm like, "We got time to spare. The event's tomorrow." And then I get a text from a coordinator, and they're like, "Hey, where are y'all?" And we're like, "Oh, well, we just got here, about to go to the hotel. We're gonna have fun, event's tomorrow." And they're like, "Oh, it's today." The coordinator who had put it all together with us had messed up the days of the events. So
Oh,
like my family, for example, they were all like in airport clothes, had to take a shower, all of that stuff. And in my head, I was like, I'm not wasting a single second with Sia. I am going directly there. But it caused I mean, we were fighting. Like Carolyn didn't want to go, anyways. And then I ended up convincing Carolyn to go with me. But literally hopped off the plane at LAX and it ended up and I arrived at Sia's house with all my baggage. So
oh my goodness.
it was a crazy day, but I mean, it was one of the best days of my life for sure. It was incredible.
I bet. There's JPL is out here near me, which
Yeah.
is I've been there. I got to do a shoot in their space center, like, or control room, I guess it was, where they were talking to the Mars rover, I think it was. Oh boy, my details
Yes.
are hazy.
Yeah, it probably Perseverance. That's the or well, I'm not gonna. Don't test my robotics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not Christian Hubicki with any of the robotics. I can only tell you about like maybe most of the rockets. But no, it's yeah. JPL specializes in robotics, so they have a lot of really cool rooms where they're assembling pieces of robots, and they have to wear the white suits, and like the air is super clean. I definitely need to make my way out there. I've visited most of the NASA centers. I've been
Mhm.
to, obviously I worked in Houston at Johnson, and then been to Kennedy and Marshall. But I really want to visit JPL's like next on my list. But it's been really fun to kind of get there's Survivor fans everywhere. I mean, I've had like the former shuttle astronaut trainer tour me around the Johnson Space Center, which was a blast. And he's a Survivor fan. He listens to a lot of podcasts, that sort of deal. And then I've had people at JPL who like reach out to me, and they're like, "Hey, we love watching you on the Survivor. If you're ever in LA, hit us up, and we'll try to get you a tour," sort of deal.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's been a really fun experience getting all sorts of little connections around the different
Yeah.
NASA centers, and getting a little bit of that, like being able to go there and be like, "Okay, I don't know where I am. Could you show me around?" sort of deal. So I've
Yeah.
loved it.
I'm sure there'll be a Survivor party out here in LA, and you'll get to go to all the space
I
stuff.
hope.
Yeah.
Yes, that'd be great. Well, thank you so much for
Oh
inviting me.
my
This has been so much
goodness.
fun.
It was so lovely to have you. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who joined us in the chat. Always appreciate y'all's support. And if anyone's watching this later, please leave a comment. First off, tell us how amazing Carson is, and then tell us how you feel about this season, especially Emily and Brandon. We need to know.
Yeah.
Carson, everyone should follow you where? What's your most social?
If you want to keep up with my very hot Survivor takes, follow me on Twitter, Carson Garrett _. Or if you want to keep up with kind of my real life, Instagram is good, Carson.Garrett. So thank y'all so much for watching. Yeah, it's been so fun. And definitely leave any space comments. I'll try to get to them.
Perfect. Yes. All your thoughts on space. All right, you guys, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.